Hi, Mark Gelfo, Thursday of Greenbuild. I just came out of a session called Year One, the True Story of a Net Zero Energy Building, talking about the actual operation of the first year in the life of a net zero building. Really wasn't a whole lot of earth-shattering information in there, although I did enjoy the presentation, so I'll just go through some of it quickly. At the heart of it, we know that the way to get to net zero is to design the building to reduce the energy demand as much as possible, select and size your renewable energy systems. But the most important thing is that net zero buildings have to be operated to net zero. You can't just design the building and then turn it over and expect it to perform the way you designed it, and that was a lot of the focus of the presentation. The case study project was basically an office building, mini call center in Los Altos, California, and they went through compared the design energy to the predicted energy during the first year to what it actually used during the first year, and what they found was that they did use more energy than they had predicted, but they also produced more energy than they had predicted, so they did end up being net positive the first year. Kind of as an aside, I talked about the overall net carbon emissions associated with any building and the people who use it, and the fact that the energy in the building is actually less than half, maybe 40% of the net carbon emissions, and that you really need to be addressing transportation, cars, people coming to the site, and air travel if you really want to look at reducing overall carbon emissions associated with the building. But anyway, some of the strategies they talked about to get to net zero, they kind of boiled it down to focusing on the light, the sun, and the envelope, and use strategies such as layering sun shading with trees, balconies, overhangs. They also use dynamic exterior blinds to control light and maximize daylighting. One of the things I thought was funny was they talked about needing to really over-communicate anything that's unusual or different with the builders. And you can't just expect them to follow the plans and specs verbatim, and a lot of communication from everything from how walls were framed to the placement of the windows to everything that was designed to help meet net zero. You can't just assume that builders are going to build it that way. You have to really communicate with them. You also have to maximize the orientation of the building, take advantage of basically every opportunity you have to reduce the load in the building, from orientation to envelope. Even though the project was in a very mild, great climate, you still need to maximize the envelope. Obviously use efficient systems. This building happened to use dedicated outside air system and active chilled beams, but whatever system, you still need to maximize HVAC, minimize the lighting power densities, and really overall designed to take the users and the occupants into account. Again, they're the ones that are going to use the building. You can't just design it and turn it over and expect them to operate it the way you want them to. You need to take into account how they're going to use the building into the design. That includes addressing things like plug loads and occupancy patterns, things that we're not normally used to getting into, and looking at the appliances and equipment that go into the buildings and affect the plug loads. It's not good enough just to go Energy Star equipment. You really need to pick the top of the Energy Star equipment to really minimize the plug loads, because as you reduce the overall load of the building, the plug loads go up as a percentage. So a really efficient building, the plug loads can be more than 50% of your overall building load. So you really need to address that and pick the best equipment and make sure they're using the building the way, or that you're taking into account how they're going to use the building. And of course, to verify how the building is operating during the first year, you need to have the measurement and verification systems in place. You need to collect a lot of data and track so that you can see and continually adjust during that first year of operation and really beyond how you're operating the building and where adjustments need to be. And they made the point that really the design team, commissioning agents need to stay involved at least for that first year of occupancy, if not beyond, to continually track and verify the performance to make sure you're getting to net zero, so that from a commissioning standpoint, it's not good enough just to do commissioning at the end of the job. You really need to do post-occupancy commissioning, not just during, for the different seasons, but also to fine-tune and adjust how the occupants are really using the space. So again, in summary, the way we get to net zero: reduce the demand, size and select your on-site renewable energy systems, and then make sure that we're operating the building to net zero for the first year at least and beyond.